So I'll start with with an introduction. So, and then a little bit about my own career path so far, and then I'll use one practical life story. I mean, this is something that's really shook me to my insides. ஒரு வயசான பாட்டி ₹1 இட்லி வைக்கிறாங்க. In fact, I also had the good fortune of working with an entrepreneur called Sunil Mittal. He didn't worry about profits. He didn't worry about share price. He never worried about market cap. His purpose was to build the world's best telephone company. And he was only focusing on customer service and leadership. And when a customer thinks of mobile phone, you should first think of Airtel. And he often used to tell us, market cap will automatically happen. If you do certain things right, the outcome is absolutely predictable. And long back, I remember watching an interview with Kamala Hassan. He said that his mother said, whatever you do, even if you're going to be a janitor or somebody who's going to be sweeping the floors in a public toilet, make sure you're the best in the world. So whatever you do, if you look at excellence, if you work hard, I think glory, and as a result of that, the financial rewards is an automatic follow through. So going into this fourth part of this presentation is certain role models, people from extremely modest backgrounds, like Murugavel Janakiraman, the founder of BharatMatrimony.com. His father is a general worker in the Ennore Port Trust. And he managed to get some basic degree in computer programming. He went on an on-site posting where he was working somewhere, and he stumbled into something which sparked off something. And whatever savings he had, he took and came back to India and started something. And now he's listed the company and he's worth a few thousand crores. So I'll just give you some of these role models. And then I'll conclude with traits which I believe are very, very rewarding in the long run. Whatever you may do. I mean, tomorrow you may not even be an accountant. You may go off into a different career path. But I think the essential toolkit are certain traits. I will touch upon some of those traits, and then we will conclude this with a Q&A. Please feel free to ask me questions. Sandeham irundanaga odane kettunom. In fact, that is one of the biggest plus points that anybody can have. Sandeham is like almost like a cancer. It'll just spread, and one fine morning you'll realize that it's assumed life-threatening proportions. So you're all blessed to have a great college and institution, and make sure that you make your teachers work harder. So Purilanaga, you have to just go back and badger them. And very often you'll find that even teachers may not have all the answers. But if you are very participative, the teachers will get even more enthused to expand the limits of your own learning process. In fact, I remember one Mr. Jagannathan who used to teach us economics in Vivekananda College. அவர் அதான் சொல்லுவாரு, SL, உங்களை மாதிரி பசங்க இருந்தாலே எங்களுக்கு வந்து we are becoming better teachers. So we used to go and keep hassling him. இது என்ன சார், அது என்ன சார், இப்படி சொன்னீங்களே, அப்படி சொன்னீங்களே. I think these are the best years of your life, and you must utilize this to the hilt. I'll take a slight diversion. There is a book called Competing for the Future by C.K. Prahalad and Gary Hamel. C.K. Prahalad is Coimbatore Krishnan Prahalad. C stands for Coimbatore. Amazing man who was a professor of management at Ann Arbor, Michigan. In that book, he makes a point on how curiosity is the best teacher. And he compares managers in a workplace with little children. The குழந்தை பிறந்த உடனே, it doesn't know anything, but it keeps learning through touch, feel, and as it starts taking its baby steps, it falls, it gets up, நடக்க தொடங்கும், அப்புறம் பேச தொடங்கும். The rate of learning of a child, ஆனா அவனா எல்லாம் அணில், ஆடு, இலை, ஈ, all those things. The rate of learning is exponential. And at a certain stage, I think it is 8 or 9 years old, the rate of learning starts decelerating. Because that's when the child develops a sense of shame. வீட்டில் யாராவது இருப்பா, என்ன இந்த மாதிரி அபிஷ்டு மாதிரி கேள்வி கேட்குற, என்ன இவ்வளோ வயசாயிட்டு இப்படி ஒரு மட்டமான கேள்வி கேட்குற. So once the child develops a sense of shame, a sense of apprehension, that is the beginning of the deceleration. In fact, when I was in ITC, somebody presented this book, and he said very often in a presentation inside a conference room, senior managers, I mean people in their late 30s, mid 40s, with titles like senior vice president or general manager, they don't want to ask questions for fear of being ridiculed. So one of the things that I want to leave with you is, please don't have any doubts. Sandeham irundha odane adha thindukanga. That is one of the biggest steps in your journey forward. Next slide, please. So again, I'm putting a caveat here. Even I may be wrong. One of the famous things that I've come across is, any truth passes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. முதல்ல சொன்ன உடனே என்னடா அந்த முட்டாப்பா எப்படி பேசுறானே அப்படின்னு. So Galileo said the world is round. The Catholic Church literally excommunicated him because what he said didn't match with the Bible. Similarly, Charles Darwin, The Theory of Evolution, which I think someday you all should read that book. It is an absolutely stunning piece of research and writing, where he postulates that the human being evolved from a primate, which is Korangu. The church became even more, upset. So anything which is absolutely outlandish gets ridiculed. Then there is a sense of, right and wrong. There are 2 camps. One camp which is for the motion, the other which is against, because there's greater acceptance. And finally, it is accepted as a self-evident truism. Then after that, everybody accepts and life goes on. So in your own life, you will see several such things. So have a very healthy sense of skepticism. You don't have to accept anything as truth, but keep your mind open. And whatever little that I'm going to say, I mean, all that Ram Kumar said, which is making me really flattered, I just want to say, like A.R. Rahman, Ella Pugaram Irevanukke. Namma kaiyila eduvume illa. Put your best foot forward, but have a deep sense of belief. Ella Pugaram Irevanukke. Namma kaiyila eduvume illa. We are just here for a short while. While we are here, we have to put our best foot forward. So with that, I'll get into this presentation. Next slide, please. So now, as we are, looking around, reading newspapers and watching breaking news, I don't think I have seen, I mean, I'm 58 years old, this kind of an uncertainty. I mean, we've been through uncertainty before. We've had the dot-com bubble burst. We've had 9/11. When 9/11 happened, for several days, no planes flew all over the world. And New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ didn't work for a couple of days. So many things have happened, again, during the Lehman Brothers collapse in September 2008. So we've seen through several uncertain times. But now we are at a stage where we don't even know what is normal. திடீர்னு பார்த்தா எல்லாம் முகமுடி போட்டு வரானுங்க, கிட்ட வரானுங்க. I mean, things, we have never seen this kind of uncertainty. And we are also passing through a time when there is so much of automation. I remember way back in 1975 or 76 when George Fernandez called a strike. I mean, he was a famous union leader. He opposed computerization. He said, if computerization comes to railways, there'll be no jobs. If computerization comes to banks. But if you look back at the 45 years, with more and more computerization, economies have only become bigger and bigger. Certain jobs have gone, but new jobs have come. So Warren Bennis is a great American writer on innovation. So in one of his books, he writes about the factory of the future. And he said the factory will have one dog and one man. The man will feed the dog. The dog will ensure that the man does not touch the machines. So this is the level of automation that we are seeing today. When I joined ITC, each marketing branch had close to 15 people. They were all clerks, they were all unionized, and they had a very set kind of routine. And then finally, when they computerized in the late 80s, what 15 people were doing was done by two ladies. In fact, all the clerical functions, which is stock keeping, which is receipt of drafts, which is printing of invoices, which is sending dispatch orders to the godowns. And these two ladies used to work for just 4 hours a day. The remaining 4 hours a day, they used to read Femina or Filmfare. So 15 people who were doing all kinds of clerical work with ledgers and everything manual. And it resulted in just two ladies manning those old dot matrix printers and the 486 machines. And Ram Kumar will know how horribly inadequate those machines are in today's context. So we are working with extreme levels of change. Companies which were successful are suddenly gone. I mean, there is an oft-used phrase called nothing succeeds like success. But my twist to that is nothing recedes like success. Before you say Jack, he's gone. I mean, Enron was the toast of Wall Street. And one fine morning, it just collapsed in a wave of scandals. ILFS, which is again a AAA rated company till 3 years ago. And it was really the torchbearer of infrastructure development in India. Today, it doesn't exist. General Electric, General Motors, which were both one of the biggest corporations in the fortune list, they are a shadow of their former self. The Reliance Anil Dhirubhai Ambani group, I mean, Mr. Anil Ambani had a fortune of 42 billion US dollars in 2007. Today, he is not able to pay his own bills. In a span of 13 years, I mean, an empire which had high-performing companies just don't exist anymore. I mean, his biggest company, Reliance Communications, which had a market cap of 1,65,000 crores in December 2007, today is not even 1% of that. So we are living in very, very different kind of a world today. I mean, in the past also we've had change, but nothing at this kind of pace. Within a few decades, things just change. But all this is for the better. My mother often tells me, "Ellam nanmaike." And I'm going to take இது வந்து தமிழ்ல சொன்னாதான் நல்லா இருக்கும். எங்க அம்மா எனக்கு சொன்னா, I was going through a very, very tough time in my life when one senior manager in my workplace was hassling me. And finally, I left because I just couldn't take, the tensions. I thought a better place would be. And at that time, my mother said, "Ellam nanmekeda." She told me a story. ஒரு மந்திரி எப்ப பார்த்தாலும் எல்லாம் நன்மைக்குன்னு சொல்லிட்டே இருப்பான். So Raja is a bit irritated, but he suffered him. One day they went for a hunt. காட்டுக்குள்ள போனோம்னா தொலைஞ்சு போயிட்டாங்க. So this மந்திரி said, எல்லாம் நன்மைக்கு. வா மூடுறா, என்னை வெறுப்பேத்தாத, I'll get upset. So then they go inside and the royal hunting party is in some other part of the forest. So after a while, they get hungry. So they pluck some fruits And Raja takes the hunting knife and cuts the fruit and he nicks himself and starts bleeding. And then he curses. And then the Mandri says, Yellam Nanmeke. So Raja loses it. He beats up the Mandri, pushes him into a well. So then he continues walking. He hopes to find the rest of the hunting party. Then he runs into a pack of tribals. And they're all preparing for some Narabali. So அந்த ராஜாவை கூட்டின்னு வந்து பலி பீடத்துல வச்சு வெட்டுறதுக்கு ரெடி ஆகும்போது பார்த்தா அவன் கையில there is a small nick and it's bleeding. So the guru of those tribals says, இது வந்து இதை பலி கொடுத்தா தோஷம் ஆயிடும், இது பண்ணா will incur the wrath of gods, இது விட்டுருங்க, வேற ஏதாவது பலி கொண்டு வாங்க அப்படின்னு. So the Raja realizes, அவன் சொன்னதுல ஏதோ ஒரு இருக்கு, எல்லாம் நன்மை. So he runs back to the கிணறு where he pushed him, and the Mandri is still struggling to stay afloat. So he puts a creeper or something and he pulls the Mandri out, narrates the whole thing, and he hugs him and says, I was such a fool, I didn't realize, நீ சொன்ன மாதிரி எல்லாமே நன்மைக்கு தான், thank you very much, I feel ashamed of my actions. So Mandri சொல்றான், நீங்க தள்ளி விட்டதும் என் நன்மைக்கே தான், இல்லைன்னா என்ன வெட்டியிருப்பாங்க அப்படி. Thank God you pushed me into the well. Otherwise, they would have let you go and they would have sacrificed me. So whatever happens, there is a God and He's going to help all of us. So be positive, never ever lose hope. What may seem like an extremely difficult situation is only a door which is going to open for a better future. So whatever happens, don't lose your spirit. Robert Bruce ஒரு கதை உண்டு. குகைக்குள்ள உட்கார்ந்து he'll be watching the spider. The 8th time the spider gets it. So then he goes back and he wages war and gets back his kingdom. So தமிழ்ல முயற்சி திருவனை ஆக்கும் சொல்வாங்க. So nothing succeeds like hard work. So keep that in your mind. Next slide, please. So this is another famous dialogue which ஆண்டவன் சோதிப்பான் ஆனா கைவிட மாட்டான். So some of the key lessons in my own journey: show up for work on time, whatever be your work, never ever be late. So 9 மணிக்கு வர சொன்னாங்கனாக்க 8:45, preferably 8:30 you be there. I'm telling you, half the battle is won. And soon you guys will be working in some office. If 9 o'clock is the start time, try and be there at 8:30. That half an hour is actually equal to something like 2-3 hours. There's nobody in the office. Nobody is calling you on the intercom. No distractions. And you just open up your email. The rate at which you will dispose of your pending work in that half an hour is simply unimaginable. And even if because of family requirements, family commitments, you can't go to office on time, make sure that your work wraps around your family time. Like, I have a small fellow, he's only 11 years old, now. So I like to go with him to school and I like to see him off and all that. So I will do my work early morning, around 6 o'clock or 6:15. See, today with the kind of technologies that we have at our disposal, you can make sure that work wraps around your life. It's very, very important to find time for everything. But of course, the commitments of a wife and a child will not show up for some time because you're all very young people. So please make sure that you show up on time. And bosses, let me tell you, love people who come to work on time. Second step is be humble but never be a doormat. Because Tamil சொல்வாங்க குனிய குனிய குட்டினே இருப்பாங்க. So make sure that while you're humble, you're never letting yourself to be rolled over. Go out and grab work. See, if you're doing a certain kind of job, please constantly look for other things, because in any workplace, people love versatile people. So if you know something and you're good at it, try and get some new skills. So if you're good at, say, financial analysis, and you will soon reach a stage where your work is so beautifully systematized and you put everything into nice, neat buckets, you will have some spare time. Just network with people around and pick up something on, let's say, treasury or insurance or risk management or compliance. Keep trying new things if you get bored. Believe me, there is nothing which is as valuable as time. If you lose health, you can get it back. If you lose wealth, you can get it back. But time which is gone will never come back. So the most valuable of all resources is time. And a lot of people say, luck, and there is this famous, quote, genius is 99% perspiration and 1% inspiration. Believe me, if you have 99% perspiration, you don't need that 1%. It is the 99% perspiration that works every time. And this particular thing on superstition, dogma, tithe, jadagam, I want to share with you a story from my own family. My mama, he's only a few years older than me because my mother and my mama, though they are cousins, Allah vayas Vityasam. His name is T.G. Ramanathan. He's a practicing chartered accountant. His life's ambition was to become a doctor.
Nice.
But he didn't get enough marks in that second group in PUC. So he went for BSc Zoology. Our zoology, there was an opportunity to apply for MBBS. Again, he didn't make the cutoff. So he didn't get anywhere after zoology. So somebody told him, CA padida nalla scope. So he joined CA. After 1 year of articleship, you could write intermediate. He wrote between the end of first year and the end of the third year articleship, which means he tried 4 times. All 4 times he failed. Then he went and saw one Kili Josyan. Kili Josyan's fellow said, sir, neenga tappu pandinga sir. CA ko ungalukku rasiye illa. Neenga law padichirukano. Some vague thing he said. So then after this Kili Josyan experience, 3 years articles is done. The first available opportunity, he wrote CA Inter. He passed all papers in one shot. And 6 months later, he took the final exam. And then he passed all 3 groups in the first shot. And that time I remember, and the Kili Josyakarana poi thedi avana rendu podu podalam paaranda. Seriyana duba. So his life, and after that, Ramanathan never looked back. I mean, he has such a flourishing practice. He did sales tax, he did excise, he did income tax. He even went on a GDR roadshow. He raised money for a company called NEPC Micon. I mean, NEPC used to run planes. So Ramanathan was the right-hand man of Mr. Kemka. So the last bullet point is here. You are the creator of your own destiny. I mean, we are all proud students of Ramakrishna Mission. Swami Vivekananda is one of our most inspiring leaders. So just make sure that it's all within your hands. Walt Disney, the famous Walt Disney, the cartoonist, he said something which I'll never forget. It's a very, very inspirational quote. If you can imagine it, you can do it. So if you're imagining yourself in the business class seat of a Singapore Airlines flight and staying in Ritz-Carlton in Hong Kong, it's doable. It's just that it will need a lot of effort. Dream big. Just don't limit your horizons. And the moment you set your paths, keep very, very measurable goals. I mean, if you just keep dreaming, nothing will happen. You also need to set measurable goals and work to a plan. And believe me, it is all within reach. You are the creator of your own destiny. Next slide, please. Can somebody click this YouTube and show this? Because this lady is an amazing, amazing personality. In fact, I'm somewhat in touch with her thanks to my own access through Dinakaran and Sun News. She's an amazing lady.
இட்லி விற்று ஏதோ ஒரு மூலையில் பிழைப்பை ஓட்டி வந்த கோவை வடிவேளாம்பாளையத்தைச் சேர்ந்த கமலாத்தாள் பாட்டிக்கு ஊடகத்தின் பார்வை பட்ட பிறகு வாழ்வாதாரம் உயர்ந்திருக்கிறது. ஆனாலும் அவரது வழக்கமான உழைப்பில் எந்த தொய்வும் ஏற்படவில்லை.
கோவை மாவட்டம் பூலவப்பட்டியை அடுத்த வடிவேலாம்பாளையத்தைச் சேர்ந்தவர் கமலாத்தாள் பாட்டி. தற்போது 85 வயதை எட்டிய இவர் கணவரை இழந்த பின்னரும் அதை பற்றி கலங்காமல் கடந்த 30 ஆண்டுகளுக்கும் மேலாக இட்லி கடை நடத்தி வருகிறார். முதலில் 25 பைசாவுக்கு இட்லி விற்பனையை துவக்கிய கமலாத்தாள் பாட்டி தற்போது ஆவி பறக்கும் இட்லியை 1 ரூபாய்க்கு விற்று வருகிறார். பல ஆண்டுகள் கடின உழைப்புக்கு பின் சமீபத்தில்தான் அவருக்கு ஊடக வெளிச்சம் கிடைத்தது. அதன் பின்னர் அவரின் வாழ்க்கை தரமும் சற்று உயர்ந்திருக்கிறது.
முதலமைச்சர் நிற்கல, அது ஏர்போர்ட் போயிருந்தோம். அவர் நிறுத்தி ஒரு பொண்ணாட போச்சுக்கிட்டு அங்கே வாங்கோ அப்படின்ட்டாரு. அவர் கலெக்டர் வீடு எடுத்து கொடுக்கணும். நாங்கள்
ஒரு சிறிய உணவகத்துக்கு தேவையான வசதிகள் தற்போது கிடைத்துள்ள நிலையிலும் அதை பற்றி கமலாத்தாள் பாட்டி பெரிதும் அலட்டிக் கொள்ளவில்லை. எப்போதும் போலவே அவர் தன்னுடைய வழக்கமான வேலையில் மும்முரமாக இருக்கிறார்.
இட்லி பாத்திரம், கிரைண்டரு, மிக்ஸு, அப்புறம் அது ஒரு கேஸு, 3 கேஸு எல்லாம் வந்துருக்கு சார். வேணுமுங்க தட்டங்கோ தூக்கோ எத்தனையோ சாமான் வந்துருக்குங்க.
உள்ளூரிலேயே இருந்தும் கமலாத்தாள் பாட்டியை அறிந்திராத பலர் தொலைக்காட்சிகளில் பார்த்த பின்னர் அவருடைய கடையை தேடி வருகின்றனர்.
இந்த ஊர் 40 வருஷமாக இருக்கிறேன் நான். எங்கள் ஒய்ஃப் தான் பேப்பர்லாம் படிப்பாங்க. தினமலை பேப்பர் படித்து இங்கே போகணுங்க. அங்கே வந்துடுறாங்க பாட்டி பார்த்து. நல்லா இருக்குங்க, ரொம்ப சாஃப்ட் இட்லி, எல்லாமே சட்னி சாம்பார் எல்லாமே நல்ல டேஸ்டாக இருக்குது.
ஊடக வெளிச்சத்தின் மூலம் பிரபலமாகியுள்ள கமலாத்தாள் என்னும் இட்லி பாட்டியின் இட்லியை சுவைக்க தற்போது வெளியூர்களில் இருந்தும் பலர் வந்து செல்கின்றனர். இதன் மூலம் பாட்டியின் வாழ்க்கை தரம் இன்னும் உயர வழி ஏற்பட்டிருக்கிறது. மாரியப்பன், நியூஸ் 7 தமிழ், கோவை.
So this, in my opinion, best exemplifies the Mahatma Gandhi saying, find purpose, the means will follow automatically. காலங்காத்தால எழுந்து அந்த இட்லி மாவை அரைச்சி பண்ணோங்கிற, see, here is a person who is consumed by the passion of her purpose. So every time I see this, I get moved, because this lady, in my opinion, embodies all the virtues that one needs to take away. I mean, 85 வயசுல காலங்காத்தால எழுந்து இட்லி வாங்கணும்னு என்ன இது? And people come all the way across just to, see her. And the moment I saw this on BBC Tamil, I shared it with a lot of my friends. And now she doesn't have a mobile, but her neighbor Pramila has a mobile. And she's an amazing lady. In fact, Pramila said, "Ninga vaanga நம்ம ஊருக்கு வந்து நீங்க ஒரு நாள் ஆயா பாருங்கன்னு சொல்லியிருக்காங்க." So this is a great story. Find purpose, means will follow. And today she is the toast of so many people. Next slide, please. இது எல்லாத்துக்குமே what is the base? I mean, a lot of students I see today are also neglecting their health. It is better to be an average student but with robust health than to be a brilliant student with indifferent health. நல்லா நோட் பண்ணிக்கோங்க. சாதாரண புத்திசாலித்தனம், in fact, believe me, after 34 years of work with various companies, it is people with average skills, average intelligence that succeed. Because what you really need in your career path are things like empathy, things like communication, things like team spirit. பயங்கர புத்திசாலித்தனமா இருப்பான், but he simply can't get along with a bunch of other guys. So இது எல்லாத்துக்கும் மூலதானம். I mean, you need to feel good about yourself. If you don't feel good about yourself, very few others will. You should look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, you rock, man. அதுக்கு most important prerequisite is good health. உங்க health only neglect பண்ணாதீங்க, because if that is lost, almost everything will be lost. Because that is the building block for everything. And இதுக்கு the most important thing is sleep. And the second most important thing is nutrition. Nutrition naga perusa supplements, whey protein, all these expensive things that people like Tiger Shroff and Surya and Arya eat. அந்த மாதிரிலாம் இல்லை. சாதாரண சாப்பாடு, கேழ்வரகு சாப்பிடுங்க, வெல்லம் நிறைய சாப்பிடுங்க, நல்லா புழுங்கல் அரிசி சாப்பிடுங்க, தோல் இருக்கிற துவரம்பருப்பு போட்டு சாப்பிடுங்க, முட்டை சாப்பிடுங்க. Nutrition is most important. Sleep, nutrition and exercise. And again, exercise, you don't need to do anything fancy. You don't need to be in a gym. Body weight, just go to YouTube and look for exercises using your body weight. Do crunches, push-ups, lunges, squats. Adu borum. And believe me, it's the habits that will shape your destiny. And I have no shame in telling you that I myself had a lot of horrible habits. அதுவும் பணம் கையில் வந்ததுனாக்கா தண்ணி அடிக்கணும்னு தோணும், தம் அடிக்கணும்னு தோணும். And I have actually ruined my health over the years. என்ன மாதிரி ஆயிடாதீங்க. Just stay away from all bad habits. Anything in moderation, son. இந்த தண்ணி அடிக்கூடாதுன்னு நான் சொல்ல. என்னைக்கா ஒரு நாள் சாப்பிட்றதுல ஒன்றும் தப்பே இல்லை. But in your formative years, the most important thing that you can do is focus on your studies and excel in your studies. And for that, you need outstanding health. So either some of you may go for CA, some of you may go for law, some of you may go for ACS, and some of you may do a course in computer programming and get into software services. There are so many options today. One good thing about you guys is you are living at a time where opportunities are abounding. When Ram and I were in BCom, private sector did not recruit at all. When we were students coming out of BCom, the biggest recruiters were public sector companies. You had people like State Bank of India recruiting probationary officers. You had United India Insurance running some exams, Hindustan Photo Film, HMT, State Trading Corporation. These were the people that recruited. And there were no private sector companies hiring. And 10 years ago more like 14 years ago when I was in IT, if you had a CA degree or an MCom degree and you went by the roadside in Gurgaon, people caught you and brought you in because there's so much demand. Companies like Genpact, American Express, HCL, Wipro, Infosys, they used to hire tens of thousands every quarter. And because of that kind of recruitment, there are so many opportunities. So it may seem like, we are going through a slowdown, but you're all working at a time when economies are becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. Some of the conventional jobs may not be available, but new jobs will arise. So you will all have huge opportunities. But the most important thing to bear in mind is make sure that you have excellent health. If you as I told you, you need to show up on time to be a good employee. If you don't sleep on time, you won't wake up on time. So if you go for night show and if you go for parties at 1 a.m. in the morning, it will definitely show up in the quality of your work. You will not be alert at 11 a.m. in the morning when there is a presentation by some senior manager. You will be yawning and you'll leave a terrible impression. So for you to be alert and looking sharp, you need to take care of your health. Health is wealth in Suma Solla. So I'm emphasizing this. Take excellent care of your health. And if you can expand your understanding of the world, it will make you a slightly more interesting person if you can talk about, like, if you meet somebody from another country and if you know something about his country and you start chatting, you will find that the kind of cordiality that sets in will be much faster. I remember I met with a chap called Kevin Campbell, one of the founders of a company that later became part of Exalt, a very large BPO company in North America. When I did the school, we had studied American history for Madras Metric. So we had a book on American history. So we gently started talking about American history and he was absolutely flummoxed. And he said, S.L., you know more of American history than I do. And that really paved the way for some relationship which helped me do something on my work front, which my boss was extremely happy with. So if you can learn some other language or read some different kind of literature, understand other cultures like Japanese, Chinese, Arabian, you will become a better employee. Surround yourself with cheerful people. What you certainly don't need is negative energy. There are some people who will always work with the notion that the world is coming to an end. Stay away from those people. You need to develop a very, very high quotient of optimism. And believe me, it will show up in your work. And lastly, always be curious, ready to experiment. No idea is a lousy idea. And very often, your intuition tells you what you should do. 99% your intuition is right. And there will be shocks, there will be disappointments, but at least you would have learned something which is life-changing for the rest of your life. I'm not saying every time intuition pays off, but 99% your intuition pays. Next slide, please. So these are three stories which I wanted to leave with you in terms of an inspiration. Anil Agarwal, today he's the chairman of Vedanta Group, Sterlite, Ken Oil, Hindustan Zinc, Bharat Aluminium. First 6 businesses that he started, all 6 businesses failed. And the 7th business was Sterlite, as it was known, that Sterlite Cables. XLP stands for cross-linked polyethylene. That was the time electricity boards all over India were expanding rural electrification. So he tied up with a company called ESEX Technologies in the US. ESEX was his collaborator. He started making XLP cables. And with that success, he started backward integrating. So he needed aluminum and copper for making those cables. So he set up, mines. So when Government of India privatized Hindustan Zinc and Bharat Aluminium, he bought it. And then recently when Ken of Scotland disinvested their oil fields in Rajasthan, he ended up buying oil. That bet has not, of course, paid off because he thought oil prices will keep going up. They haven't, but in all, he's still a very, very successful entrepreneur. But the key point to note is first 6 businesses failed. Then there's Murugavel Janakiraman I just mentioned. When he was in US, he came across this online dating websites. So people could go and talk about themselves. They put pictures of themselves. He said, 26-year-old computer programmer. and then, somebody will respond, and then they go on a date and get to know each other, and whatever happens later. So he looked at this, the power of internet getting people together. Matrimonial alliance, he came back to India and started Bharat Matrimony on a shoestring budget. And it's gone from strength to strength. He's got Sindhi matrimony, he's got Marwadi matrimony, he's got Bengali matrimony. He segmented that product offering to across communities in India and built an amazing business and taken the company public. And he's worth a few thousand crores today. But he still keeps grounded. He's an amazing man. I mean, if you ever get an opportunity to work for Bharat Matrimony someday, this is the kind of company where you can learn a lot and you can do a lot of things. Last but not the least is Chandramohan of Hats and Agro. I mean, somewhere in a remote corner of Madurai district, Tenilio, I think one of those villages. And he actually failed because he didn't want to study. He deliberately dunked his exam so that he could get into a business. And somebody famously told him, actually his business is dependent on Madu now, except that he is worth $1.4 billion. Hats and Agro is one of the most well-managed companies. I mean, I can say with some pride that I know this man. Oh, these are absolute living inspirations. So when you have some time, Google these names and read more about them. It will be very, very inspirational for you. You can take some lessons from their own lives and you'll find that you're enthused with a different kind of enthusiasm. Next slide, please. Okay, now I'll just quickly run through this. I think another 6 minutes to go. Life is not fair. That is for sure. You will see a lot of disappointments. I myself had several disappointments, but you need to get tough. If you think your teacher is tough, wait till you get a boss. Bosses can be absolutely cantankerous. And if you're working for an entrepreneur, be ready for even more tough times because they are very mercurial people, they're very successful people, and they're high achievers. They set the pace. In fact, I still recall my days in HCL. Mr. Nadar is one of the toughest bosses I've worked with. He sets those impossible targets for himself and he'll punish himself to reach those targets. So if you're not keeping pace with him, he'll get very upset. There's no finality in learning. Life is a complete continuum. At every stage, you're learning. I mean, I'm 58 years old, but I'm still learning. I mean, a few years ago, I never thought I'll be, sitting down to learn about professional sports. IPL na innana theriyadangalukku. So IPL team aadana, so we had to start from scratch. But the important thing is, once you have the tools with you, applying that is a piece of cake. Assume nothing. Only the paranoid will survive. This is a great book by Andy Grove of Intel. And if you have this in your library, please take it and read it. It's one of the finest books. So at any stage in life, don't drop your guard. Be very alert. And it almost sounds like hysteria, but it is the truth. Businesses that have survived only because someone at the top was very paranoid. What is competition going to be doing? What is my rival going to be innovating? So you need to be ahead of everything. Execution, execution, execution. Mandiratale mangai uruman or paatu. Ideas don't move mountains, only bulldozer does. So you need to get into a mindset where you just don't stop dreaming, but you're also doing. Even a tortoise won't make progress unless it sticks its neck out. And last but not the least, don't confuse motion with progress. You have to pull in the right direction. Rocking horse goes back and forth, but doesn't make any progress. So you need to understand that you're making progress, set very, very clear-cut goals, and keep measuring your performance against those goals. Measurement is very, very important. Even if you're losing weight, the first step is to buy a weighing machine and keeping it in your bathroom, because you need to measure your progress. And I think I'm done with this. We can now open this for Q&A.
First question. Sir, please share your journey. Give us some tips how to come to your level.
Uh, I don't know. I mean, I think there are no, formula. I just trusted my instincts. I mean, somewhere I decided that I should join a top company. So it pays to get a good stamp, because when I was applying for ITC, the jobs were open only for CAs coming from top-rated firms. Fortunately, I went to Fraser and Ross, which is a very highly reputed firm, which is part of Deloitte now. If you want to start your journey at a top-rated company like ITC, Hindustan Lever, or Citibank, where you can learn a lot, you need to make sure that you come out of a top-rated institution. Unfortunately, the companies also recruit only from the best schools. So even in ITC today, if you're from IIM Ahmedabad and Calcutta, Bangalore, or Bajaj, or XLRI, you'll get picked up. But people from tier 2 schools, unfortunately, don't get picked up. So the first thing that I would say is to get into an institution where you have an excellent, hallmark. Because the top hirers like Citibank or Bain or McKinsey will not even come to tier 2 schools, because there's only so much of time. So when you pass out of BCom, make sure that if you're doing CA, either get into Ernst & Young or Pricewaterhouse or any of these big name firms, because unfortunately, the recruitment happens only with a select few. And once you get into a large company, use that as a stepping stone for bigger things. Very often, many people that have joined ITC with me are still with ITC. They never left. So these kind of companies are constantly growing. They'll keep offering you opportunities. And as I said, just keep your mind open. If things don't work out, like it didn't work out for me, and I told you, my mother said, "Ellam nanmaike." And looking back, I think, I've had an equally good career. I may not have been in ITC, but I went to other places. I seen the world, and I had a lot of new thrills and new excitements. So just trust your intuition and put the maximum that you can in terms of hard work. Inevitably, rewards will come your way. And there's no one route to glory. There can be multiple routes. I hope I answered this question.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. The next question is, you have said about so many entrepreneurs' successful stories. I'm inspired about it, but I don't know where to start as an entrepreneur. Please guide me, sir.
See, entrepreneurship is actually an outcome of a passion. I mean, this is something that's within you. For all I know, you may be passionate about, let's say, garment design. Like my daughter very nearly became an entrepreneur because she was very interested in street fashion. And she used to go and buy some very inexpensive clothes from places like Sarojini Nagar Market in Delhi, or in Bombay, there is one place where you can get some clothes that look like designer style clothes, but for a few hundred rupees. So she was convinced that there's a huge market for affordable fashion. So I really don't know what is your passion. Like the man who came out of IIM Ahmedabad, who started this batter company called ID. ID stands for Idli Dosa. And he was charged with a passion to create a company which made it possible for housewives to make idli batter without any, make idlis or dosas without any effort. So you need to find your own passion and you'll find it. Like Captain Krishnan Nair, he retired from the Indian Army and then he started a company making lace. And he named the company after his wife. Leela Scottish Lace was his first entrepreneurial journey after retirement from the Indian Army. And in his late 60s, with the money he made from export of lace, he went into hoteliering. And till about late 80s, he was active as a hotelier. He used to literally inspect every room and he'd look at every bloody window, door and carpet and towel and amenities in the toilet. So I really don't know what inspires you. I mean, I'm sure if you sit back and ask yourself, what do I want to be when I'm 30? And just present a mental imagery of where you want to be. And I'm sure you'll find that answer with a little bit of introspection. The answers are within yourself. What excites you? But if it is going to be led by what will give me money, I'm telling you, you will fail. Let it not be driven by money. It has to be driven by a higher purpose, a calling which connects you. And that's what is going to get the best out of you. It could be something as silly as puja saman. Like look at giri trading. Giri trading operates in East Mada Street outside the east gate of Kabalishwar Govil. And they have branches all over. And the way they've stocked that shop, when you go inside, even if you don't have a need for something, you'll end up buying. There's devotional cassettes, there's devotional CDs, there's Udubati, there is Sambrani, there is Chandanam, there is... I mean, it's like, if you're a religious person, you'll feel like a kid in a candy store. So you need to figure this out yourself. And believe me, if you chase your passion, you will succeed hugely. Not far away from giri trading on the platform is Akka Bhaji Kadai. Someday, please go and have bhajis in that place. I'm telling you, that kind of bhajis even your mother can't make. She does it with such pride and such devotion. It shows in the bhaji. So, to succeed as an entrepreneur, the most important thing is passion, a dream, and hard work to chase that dream.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Another student had asked that, sir, I have hoped to become somebody, but the gossips that is revolving around me put me down. Please help me how to overcome this.
I'm very sorry that you're letting gossips and rumors around you to impact you. You shouldn't worry about anything that people may say of you. End of the day, you need to be true to your own conscience. As long as you can sleep peacefully at night and looking at the mirror that you put your best foot forward, why are you letting gossips bother you? I mean, a car is going on a road, stray dogs will bark at the car and jump at the car. The guy inside the car shouldn't get bothered about it. He has to ride on and be focused on his journey. நாலு பேர் நாலு விதமா பேசிதான் இருப்பாங்க, gossip பண்ணுவாங்க, they'll build it. என்னெல்லாமோ சொல்லுவாங்க. There's a famous song by Pattukottai Kalyana Sundaram where they say that வேப்பமர உச்சியிலிருந்து வேலொன்னு ஆடுதுன்னு விளையாட போகும்போது சொல்லி வைப்பாங்க, உன் வீரத்தை பொழுந்திலேயே கிள்ளி வைப்பாங்க. வேலையற்ற வீணர்களின் கூறுகெட்ட வார்த்தைகளை நம்பி வெம்பி விடாதே அப்படின்னு ஒரு சாங் ஒன்று வரும். These are all the songs that you need to listen to get inspiration. வாசிப் பண்றாங்களா போட்டான், வேலை இல்லாத பசங்க தான் வம்பு வீண் வம்பு பண்ணுவாங்க. You need to look at yourself. You need to drive your own agenda.
Thank you, sir. The next question is, who is your role model? Who is your role model?
My role model is actually my mother. I often say that if only she had studied after 11th standard SSLC Tamil medium, they got her married off. If she had studied, she would have been 10 times of Indra Nooyi.
SL, I have two questions. SL, I've been mentor with this team. I'm also going through what is happening. SL, is that when we do all these seminars and workshops, it's a co-ed institute, right? Avichi. And then what I find is very surprisingly, some of the girl students come out and ask questions and talk to us. But invariably, myself, Ganesan, or Desikan, or Srini, who have done that, I found that the boys, in spite of all the prodding, somehow they're feeling shy. They come out and ask us all the questions, but in front of the 70-80 people, they never open up, which has been very, almost 80% of the boys, in terms of, with all respects to them. But I find that, very, very, I ask them, Gormar irukku sir, shy irukku sir, pesradhukku Gormar irukku, but they ask brilliant questions outside. First is to see, how do they overcome this? It's a puzzle to me, First time I've been seeing this for the last 2 years, uniformly across. This is my one thing. And second is, you're moved with exceptional people like, Mr. Deveshwar, Mr. Maran, Mr. Shivnadar, Mr. Mittal. I'm sure, I think you've worked with such a close proximity. Not many get that opportunity. What is that special thing which you found in them? Something which really made them what they are. I'm sure you have noticed them at very close quarters. Just this two SL. Sorry, I exceeded my brief. I just want this. I think it will be eye-opener to a lot of the students. Thank you.
The second question is easy. The first question, I really don't know. In fact, I myself used to be very, very timid and shy when I was in school, because I was in the midst of some outstanding classmates. Some of them were absolutely brilliant. And I had a problem communicating in English. I was very, very weak in English when I was in school. So out of sheer, sense of inadequacy, I never opened my mouth in school.
Okay.
So it's I don't think it's life-threatening, as long as, the boys, connect up with the teachers outside the class on a one-on-one, they do it, it's fine. But the second part of your question is very, very interesting. One thing that cuts across all these entrepreneurs is that, the kind of passion they have to succeed. That is something that, they live and breathe and sleep business. Like Mr. Nadar that way was an amazing man. He had his mind was working at the speed of light. And he was late to the IT services party because HCL was largely a hardware maker, and software really started taking off only from the late 90s, whereas TCS started in the late 60s, Infosys started in the early 80s, Wipro started in the late 80s. So HCL was almost a decade late. So he was always living and breathing how to get to the top. And the same thing with Mr. Maran. I am so fortunate. Last 9 years I've been working with Mr. Maran. He's always thinking about how to take the business to a different level. And same is true of Mr. Mittal. Mr. Mittal, people wrote off Airtel in 2016 when Jio came on a free service for almost a year. And despite that, they're still holding almost 30% market share. That's because an extraordinary resolve on the product and the customer. The very, very deep sense of customer orientation and keeping the customer happy. And this is something that cuts across all these people. And that's why they're so successful, I guess.
Great.
Okay, sir. To add to this, Mr. Narayan's points, as principal, like I have also found out, comparing the girls, the boys are little reserved type. The sense, rather the reserved, they are living in like a comfort zone. So probably they let to come out from the comfort zone so that they can also become like girls to come forward to put up the COVID. The
I
questions
think
are
it's biological, sir. The girls become mature at a younger age. We are all late bloomers.
Okay. But otherwise, knowledge-wise, they're all equally better, sir. But only thing is, they don't want Tamil பழமொழி சொல்லுவாங்கல்ல பூனைக்கு யாரு மணி கட்டுறதுன்னு. They want somebody to initiate.
But then I think what you should do is maybe the kind of teaching methodology that you're adopting.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
Try to bring a little bit of change and
Yes, sir.
get some of these people to come and take a few lessons.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
And provoke them and make it a more participative kind of learning process.
Exactly.
And make small groups and ask them to come and make presentations.
Yes.
And ask one of them to defend a certain proposition.
Yes. Yes.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah. Actually, this proposal we just started. Of course, we had a separate unit called as the soft skill training team.
Right.
That team is being headed by one Madam Prasanna Alaga Swami. She is taking care of that part, taking them as a group individually, giving some tasks to discuss among themselves, expose what they have probably have in their mind, so that they can also just come out and probably come out with that whatever the points they have in their mind about it. So anyway, we had a beginning. I think your point is very good. We will take it up to the next level, sir. So with that, I can probably once again welcome you to our campus as one of our mentors, sir.
I'll definitely come. In fact, Shanmugam and I go back to 1979.
Sir, yes, sir.
And, he's a very, very dear friend. And I know how passionate he is about this college. And
Yes,
he's
sir.
fortunate to have leaders like you running the college for him.
Of
And
course,
I'm
sir.
also very impressed with what Ram is doing. He's a
Yes, sir.
busy entrepreneur himself.
Yeah, of course, sir.
Despite the rules and pressures of running a firm, நான் வந்து தொழிலாளி, he's a முதலாளி. He putting some time is a lot more valuable. I will definitely try and stay connected with you, sir. And whatever little I can do, I'll be delighted to pitch in.
Yes, sir.
And I now need to run, sir. I have to go back to office.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you, sir. I over to Selvi for this sort of things.
Thank
Yes,
you so much.
Thank you so much, sir.
All the very best, boys and girls. God is great.